There are at least 5 different training plateaus awaiting on your weight training journey, and regardless of if you're a beginner, an intermediate, or an advanced, it will be very beneficial for you to understand the reason why these plateaus exist and figure out a way to break these plateaus. That's why in this training plateau series, I'm going to show you 5 of the most predictable plateaus that you're going to run into, explain the specific challenges that you will face each time, and present my recommendations on breaking through each individual plateau so you can keep making progress and ultimately look as jacked as me. Welcome to Fast Track Gains. I'm here to help you accelerate your gains. This is the first episode of my 9th series, Training Plateaus. As mentioned in the intro, each plateau will bring about its unique challenges. However, what I did not mention is that what makes those challenges unique is because of the specific circumstances you are under at different points of your training timeline. The knowledge, experience, and expectations that an advanced has will be vastly different from that of a beginner. Therefore, what a beginner would consider as a plateau may not be considered as a plateau at all in the eyes of an advanced. But that's from a retrospective angle, and it does not help with the frustration and confusion that the person has found himself in back then. In order to fully understand the unique challenges of each plateau, it is important to revert back and look at each plateau from your backland perspective instead of from an omnipresent perspective. That's why the very first plateau I'm about to discuss in this episode, although it is the easiest plateau to break out of all the plateaus, and a lot of people will not even consider it as a plateau, it might be the most valuable plateau you have to break out of all the plateaus. And in case you still don't know it, I'm referring to the 3-month burnout plateau that most beginners are bound to face. Now, of course, in hindsight, this plateau is the easiest to break, and it may not even be considered as a plateau because nobody stops progressing after only 3 months of training. But from the viewpoint of a beginner who have just started their training, there is every reason to take the 3 months burnout as the very first plateau, particularly given the excitement and high expectations that most beginners have on the one hand, and extremely limited fitness knowledge and experience they have on the other when they first embark on their fitness journey. You have your dream physique in mind, you sign up for a new gym, you start paying attention to your nutrition, you are inspired by all the amazing 90-day transformations you see on social media, and you decide to go all in for your own glorious 90-day transformation. Yet, after 3 months of consistent training, there's no substantial visual difference you can pick up in the mirror. You look pretty much the same as 3 months ago. Your progress is nowhere near your original expectations, let alone those amazing 90-day transformation cases you saw on social media. And you are increasingly getting the feeling of burnout. It seems like all the time and energy and effort you have put into your fitness in the last 3 months have turned to no avail, and you are getting nowhere. Is this the sign of a plateau and time for you to quit? Please raise your hand if the same thoughts have crossed your mind at your own 3-month training timeline. I can tell you firsthand that I definitely had the same thought cross my mind, and my training result after 3 months was pathetic. I was a bit leaner and a bit stronger. But the visual difference of muscle growth I was looking for in the mirror was nowhere to be seen, despite all the effort I had put in. This, in the eyes of a beginner with extremely limited fitness knowledge and experience, but high expectations, could very well be viewed as a plateau and serve as a perfect excuse to quit your training. In fact, there are studies showing that over 90% of people quit after 3 months of training, particularly in the gym environment. So while on paper, the 3-month burnout plateau is the easiest plateau to break out of all the plateaus, in reality, it is also the most lethal plateau. If you can survive this plateau, then you are already better than most of the new gym bros. So why does this plateau exist? Well, I'm going to play a clip from my previous video, Hacking into the Ultimate Hypertrophy Code, Beginner, as the explanation.
Now, all of this in hindsight was plain as a day. Your body will always try to increase its neuromuscular efficiency before even thinking about putting on more muscle tissue to fend off the weights, as the former is much more efficient than the latter to get you stronger, particularly at the beginner phase. And your body, as a surviving machine, will always choose the most efficient way. So, as a beginner, for the first 3 months of your beginner training, you really should not expect that much of muscle growth because the bulk of your training results will be reflected in your increased neuromuscular efficiency, which makes you stronger, but not reflected so much in your increased muscle size, which makes you bigger, and that's the thing you really want. For that to happen, you have to wait a bit longer. That is why I've never fond of this idea of 12-week challenge. Because 12 weeks for any true beginner is really not enough time to see the signs of muscle growth. Sure, you can lose quite some water and even some body fat during 12-week challenges. But for anyone who wants to grow muscle, your patience really has to last much longer than merely 12 weeks.
And how do you break the very first plateau? In one simple word, patience. Unlike all the other plateaus that require changes from some other aspects, as the 3-month burnout plateau has nothing to do with the stagnation of physical performance, there's nothing that you have to change in terms of training, nutrition, or recovery. All you have to do is tough out a month or two more, and you will begin to see visible visual changes in the mirror. Take me for example. This is a photo of me after 5 months of training, which is 2 months longer than the 3-month burnout plateau. Now you can clearly see the visual changes of both fat loss and muscle growth. As I said before, patience is really a virtue. Sometimes just being a little bit more patient is all it takes between premature frustration and limitless success. That's why, although the very first plateau is the easiest to break, because it is the only plateau that requires only patience to break it, it is also the most valuable plateau to break, because it teaches you the value of patience. Without patience, even the most talented person cannot break all the plateaus. But with patience, even the most ordinary person can break any plateaus over time. That's it, guys. The very first plateau you have to face on your journey, the 3-month beginner burnout plateau. Be patient. That's all it is required to break this plateau. Please like this video and subscribe to my channel. In the next episode, I will talk about the second plateau, which is by far the most common plateau out of all the plateaus. So stay tuned. Thank you for your support, and I will see you all in the next episode. Peace out.